Also a very warm welcome from my side. My name is Hans-Rudolf Hotz. I'm working at the Friedrich Miescher Institute in Basel. And it's my honor and great pleasure to chair this webinar today. Speed up your data analysis with Galaxy, feature no one knows about. So as David already mentioned, this is the last in the series of 4 webinars. Can I have the next slide? So at this point, I want to thank again Elixir, who made this webinar series possible. Special thank goes to David, who was in charge and managed all the logistics in the background. And of course, special thanks today for our 2 speakers, Jennifer Hillman-Jackson and Annika Erzleben. Jennifer is a member of the US Galaxy team working for Penn State University. Annika is a member of the European Galaxy team working for Freiburg University. So can I have the next slide? And before I hand over to our 2 speakers of today, I just want to mention again that if you have any questions, please put them into the Q&A. If you have small comments, you can also use the chat. We will try answer those during the presentation. Any leftover questions we will sort of put in front at the end of the talk. Also kind of interesting questions we might repeat at the end of the talk. Any sort of, when we cannot answer any questions, feel free to get in contact with Galaxy Help. We will show the details for this at the end as well. So with this, I would like to hand over to Jennifer and Annika for this webinar.
Okay, welcome everybody also from my side, and thank you very much, Elixir, for organizing this webinar. And thanks, Hans-Rudolf, for this kind introduction. So during the last 3 webinars, you all have learned about already some advanced features of workflows, for example, about data collections, and that you can use Jupyter Notebooks and RStudio within Galaxy. Today's title is Speed Up Your Data Analysis with Galaxy, and we don't talk about workflows today and about tools, but we want to show you today how you can make this application faster and how you can work with Galaxy much more effectively. So we will show you this, how you can customize Galaxy by setting your own top-level preferences, for example, how you can set up your login, how you can explore your work before you run a workflow, how you can set notifications for your work, and also how you can collaborate and share your data with other users and getting much faster help. So the things we show you here make you going much quicker through your analysis when you share and collaborate with your partners. You share your data, because you can even troubleshoot and diagnose your problems together by sharing your data. And this is all what it is about today. So all demonstrations we have today are running on the European Galaxy server. So next slide, please. So we start with user preference options. So in Galaxy, there are some hidden options, and we want to show you some of them and explain what they are, how you can customize them. Next slide. So we start with a small video, and this video shows you the location. So we are on the European Galaxy server, and on the navigation top panel, you find this option where you can have a drop-down menu, which is called User. And in this User drop-down menu, you find the preferences. And on the top, from this User preferences, you see the email, which you use to log in, and then you have there a list of preferences you can set. So you can leave it all default if you like, or you can explore what you can set up for your own account. So some of these features are really useful to customize your Galaxy account and you get your own settings. Or for example, to know a bit more about your permissions you have. So on the bottom, you see how much disk space you use on Galaxy and what your quota is about, and you see some more documentation. Next slide. So this is where you find the user preferences. So if you go to the top navigation level and you choose user, then you can select this preference button, and then you can see all the options you have to set. So you have to be careful for some, or don't be surprised for some of these preferences. When you change them, you will get an email where you just have to activate a link, for example, or confirm what you have done for changes is just for security reasons. Next slide. So we start with manage information. So first of all, you can change your email address. So if you want to use a different one, you can do it here in manage information section. You can choose also a different public name. You can change a public name, which has to have just characters and numbers. You can insert your institutional address, and you can use also equivalent jobs. So if you want to be able to reuse your equivalent jobs, for example, the Galaxy EU server will not rerun a jobs which uses exactly the same parameters or input of a prior than the prior jobs which you have used. So this prior job results can be added just to your histories, and you don't need to rerun all your jobs again. So just imagine you have a huge workflow with 200 steps and you don't want to run the full workflow again, but just want to use the tool on top of this workflow. You can put here yes, you can select yes, and then this results and this workflow is just put into your history, and it saves you lots of quota space, for example. Under localization, you can choose your preferred language. You can choose, for example, if you want to show your top panel in Chinese, in French, or in Japanese language. And next slide, please. And you can choose, for example, also if you want to use this distributed compute resource. So usually a Galaxy decides where your job is put to analyze your data. But if you have special use cases, or if your country, for example, possesses special compute power or compute resources, you can select where you want to send your job to. So you can send it to the Denby Cloud in Germany, to Italy, Portugal, to the UK, to Brussels, Finland, Norway, or to the supercomputing center in Barcelona, for example. Next. So if your research organization is part of another scientific program, you can add your information here on this page. So for example, if you have an account on EGA, on the European Phenome Archive, is the way to put your credentials here inside. So you have access directly to the EGA, which can download, where you can download your files for which you have authorization directly from EGA into your Galaxy account. You can add your Dropbox access, or your Omero credentials, for example. So Omero, for example, is a resource for bioimage data. So if you have a local instance, a local Omero instance, you can connect us directly to Galaxy and download some not publicly available images, for example, to Galaxy. Or some interesting feature is if you want to upload or download data from ENA, from the European Nucleotide Archive, you can give your credentials here, and then you can search or retrieve ENA data to Galaxy, and you can use our ENA upload tool. So in Galaxy, on the European Galaxy server, it's possible to upload directly your data to the European Nucleotide Archive. Next slide. So if you need to change your password, you can do so here. You will get an email which you have to confirm that you have done this. If you have forgotten your password, you can not change your password, but you just go on the login page to forgot password, and then you can simply reset your password. Next. So you can manage also your third-party identity. So if you want to connect or disconnect your third-party identities, you can do this in Galaxy. So we are using OpenID Connect based logins, which allows you to link a Galaxy user account with an external identity. So for example, if you have a Google account, you can directly use your Google account here for Galaxy if your Galaxy server supports this. So the supported identities vary by public servers. So the European server may support different ones than the American one. Next slide. So on the European server, if you go to this Elixir login button, for example, we provide you different options. You can sign in with Google, with LinkedIn, for example, or with your org ID. So, but it depends on the Galaxy server you have an account, what you can choose probably. Next. So you have also the option to set all your dataset permissions for new histories, that you don't need to do this for each history again. So always when you create a new history, you can set the options here with who you want to share your data. So on this page, you can grant permission and access to single users or groups of users if you don't want to do this for all the histories step by step, but you can do it just in one run here and save your permissions. So if you click this make all your data private button, then all histories and data sets for which you have granted access already will be made private again. Or if you want to share new history or new data, if you click this button, all your new histories will be also private. So this can be undone also by clicking this make all your data private button again. Next. So an API key. So every user, every Galaxy user has their own API key. And with this API key, you are able to access Galaxy programmatically. So for example, you need this API key if you want to connect, for example, your local Galaxy instance directly to a sequencing machine and want to run your workflow as soon as your data is ready, then you need to have this key. And this key is as important as your login. So protect your API key and don't give it to others, because everybody who has your API key has full access to your Galaxy account. But if you need your API key, if you are asked for this, you will find your API key here under user preferences. Next. So you can leverage Galaxy to analyze your data stored on a private cloud-based storage, for example. So you have the possibility to connect here your private cloud storage, and Galaxy allows you then to get or to send data from or to a cloud-based storage, and you can simply use this option to move around data as you like. So if you want to connect your private cloud here, you can do this here in this user preference option. Next. So a very useful option is this manage your toolbox filters. So at least the European Galaxy server, we have more than 3,000 different tools. And if you don't want to see all of them in the toolbar, you have the option here to filter your tools. So for example, you can hide or show tools which you need for data analyzing in the genomics field or metagenomics data, proteomics data, and so on and so on. So if you want to reduce the set of tools you need for your analysis, you can do this here by clicking yes or no, show this filters yes or no, and you can always do it back. So if you see that you don't have all the tools shown there which you need, you can always take this decision back and say no or yes. So this is a really nice feature which you can pre-select here to use the European Galaxy server. Next. So you can manage your custom builds. So usually there are, for many organisms, reference genomes which contain nucleotide sequences, which you use, for example, when you do RNA-seq data analysis, but sometimes you don't have a reference genome. And in Galaxy, you have the possibility to create a so-called custom reference genome. For this, you need a FASTA formatted data set, and you load it into your history. And this custom reference genome can be used in place of a native reference genome for most tools. So if you don't have a reference genome for your organism you work with, you can simply take a FASTA file from your history and take this as a custom reference genome in Galaxy. This is possible. So you can set all the options, customize it here under this point. Next. So yeah, sign out from a Galaxy account, very simple. But for example, when you use the shared computer, it's very important that you sign out from Galaxy, because everybody who logs in into your computer can make something into your account. And important for you to know, even if you log out from Galaxy, all executed tools or queued workflows which you have started, they will just continue to run. Yeah, so you can start a big workflow if you like. And if you have started the workflow, you can just go away, have a coffee or sleep a night, and then you come back to Galaxy and everything is hopefully finished. So even if you sign out from Galaxy, everything what you have started will still continue to run. Next. So it's very useful to enable your notifications. So when you enable your notifications, you will have a pop-up within your browser, which shows you when a job, for example, is completed, or you can also let Galaxy send you an email when a workflow, for example, is finished. And you can, of course, re-enable and disable this at any time. So also very interesting feature you may not know about. Next one. And of course, if you don't want a Galaxy account anymore, you can delete your account, but you have to be careful that all your data which are included in this account will be also permanently removed, and this cannot be undone. So you have to set up a new account on Galaxy. Next slide. Next. So we will talk about data privacy and collaboration now. So I have shown you already where you can set this option, and you have to know for Galaxy that you can set these permissions from completely private, so only data which is for yourself, and you can set these permissions also to a couple of users. For example, if you just want to share it with a partner, with a colleague of you, or you can also share your data, your histories, your data sets with the entire collaborative group. So you can design groups in Galaxy and you can share all your data with a specific group, or you can make them even public. So in Galaxy, you have also the possibility to publish your data, that histories, for example, are shown in a specific section in Galaxy. We will show you this later, where you can publish your histories and make it accessible for everybody. So the default settings which are applied to a data set. So default settings are always applied to a data set when they come from outside of Galaxy. For example, if you upload data or if you download data from your CSC, main table browser, for example, and data sets within Galaxy. For example, if you import the dataset library or if you get data from another users, they still have the permissions which are set in the library or from the sharing users. So then you need to change probably your permissions or the permissions for the data set when you receive some data, and or you may have to ask your collaboration partner about this. Next. So how do you do this? So to make your data set or to change the permission of a data set, you go into your history to this pencil button. And if you go to this pencil button, there is a tab which is called permissions. And if you click this tab, you can manage the permissions. So who can change this permission. You can give a name or a group there, and then you can say who has access to this data set. So you can choose a single user, for example, you want to share the data, or you can even choose a full group of users which have been created on the specific Galaxy on the Galaxy server. And don't forget to save your permissions, of course. Next. So for us, it's very important to show you today that you can collaborate with others. So Galaxy is really famous for it, and Galaxy allows you to share your data. You can share data sets, you can share histories, and you can share full workflows with other users. And the huge advantage of this is that your data can be reviewed by others, they can be edited by others, and they can be even published by others. So next. So we have created a small example for you. So let's imagine we are using a tutorial which is taken from the Galaxy training network, from the GTN network. And in our example, we have taken a tutorial and we have pre-edited the input data set from this tutorial. And we use this input data set, and this input data set makes a problem. So the user will get an error in his history. So, and then collaborator A wants to get help, and he shares the history with this failed tool by an email account to collaborator B. So collaborator B will receive the shared history from collaborator A. And collaborator A gives full access to this history and to this data set to get the comprehensive feedback and editing abilities. So collaborator B is then able to import this shared history. He finds this under his shared histories, and he can review the error then and edit the file to find the error and edit the error so that it will run probably and make it new, and sends this new data set back to collaborator A. And collaborator collaborator A can import now this data set which have been edited by collaborator B and tries the same tool if it reruns again with this new data set, if it will work out or if it will fail now. So this is a really simple example, which we will show you now in a small movie, and which can demonstrate, this is really a nice feature that you can share and review, edit and rerun work together with collaboration partner, and that sharing is a big help also for you for troubleshooting, for example. Next slide. So here we have this video. So here you see that this is a history from a GTN training tutorial. You see all the steps from the tutorial will have been green, so all they were successfully run. But there is one plotting tool which gives a failure, gives an error, and we don't know really why. Okay, so this training data was taken from this training network page from the Galaxy Training Network, and there are more than 200 different tutorials stored. So if you need training material, you will find it here. And with the search function, you can search for specific tutorials. So we have used the Circos tutorial in our example. And the Circos is a visualization tool where you can visualize dataset in a circular way. So it's a really amazing tool which you can use to show your data in a circular way, and you have different layers to show. And we have used this tool, performed all the steps which we are really in detail described in the tutorial. And we treated a bit the input file to get this error. So, and now I will ask my collaboration partner if he could help me to review what is the problem and how can, if he could just help me. So my collaborator B asked me now, can you share the history with me? And to share the history with another collaborator, you go just to this gear icon, and then you see you have many history actions, right? So you have history actions, you have actions you can do with dataset, you can copy them, you can show whatever. And there is the share and publish button. So if you go to the share and publish button, it asks you if you want to share the specific history. And I said, yes, I want to share my history with the individual user. So I asked collaborator B for his email address. So I can type in there the email address of the specific Galaxy user I want to share my data with. And I say, so I type in the email address there, and then I submit my history to this specific user. Okay, you see also the number of data sets. And then there is another page which asks me, okay, how do you want to set the permission? So all these data sets in your history can be shared, but you have to update some permissions for some data sets in your history, and it gives me for which data sets. And now it asks you, how would you like to proceed? So do you want to make a data set public for everybody can accessing them, or just private to you and your collaboration partner, or you want to share it anyway, but you don't change any permissions? I said, no, I want to share it with, so I want to have it private, and I want to share my data with this unique user. So then you will see with which user you have shared your history, and you can always remove it. So if you don't want to share your history with this user anymore, you can just unshare your data. Next. So what you have seen in the video is that you can share your history. Okay, so if you go to this gear button, you see the history actions, you select the share and publish button. Then you have to insert the Galaxy user address if you want to share your history, in this case, with a specific user, and you submit your history to share this history with this user. Next. So then you have the option, make your history accessible. I said, yes, I want to make my history accessible. And then you can decide if you want to make your history accessible by a link. So you can create also a URL link, which you can send to the user or to somebody else, and you can publish also your history. So with this URL, you can decide if you want to publish this URL, so publish your history, everybody can access your history, or just want to keep it with this individual user. Next. So be careful that you set your permissions. So here you have to decide if you want to make your dataset public to everybody, or if you want to share a dataset only with a single user or the user you are sharing your data, or if you don't want to change any permission. So if you let it by default, you will have this last selection, share anyway, don't change any permission, and then it may happen that some people cannot access all the data sets you have in your history. Next. Okay, so this is the point. I will hand over to Jen. Jen will show you what she can do with this imported history in her Galaxy account.
Hi, everyone. So we're already in the account, and we're looking under the history that was shared with me under user history shared with me. And there's a few ways you can do this. You can just view the data. You don't have, this doesn't take any quota space up. You can copy it, which adds it to your history, or you can unshare it when you're done doing it. So in this one, we are going to import it two different ways. First, we did the import. So we viewed it first, and then we decided to import it. And here it is. But there's another way to do it. So you can just copy it directly. If you know that you want to work with it, it kind of labels it how it was originally, and it shows up in your history. And it doesn't matter which one you pick. But we're going to look and see. So under the multi-history view, you can see all of the histories in your account. And you can see that these have different names because of the different actions of how they were brought in. But it doesn't really matter. So they're both in there, and we're going to, so we could switch histories here, but we're going to go and just go back to analyze data, because that's our most recent history. So here's the error. This is the error my collaborator was telling me about. So how do I diagnose this problem? Sometimes the message here inside the data set isn't super useful, but there's more information. So the first thing you might want to click on is the bug icon. And this gives you the standard error. It tells you which data set had a problem. You can review here and try to solve the problem. And there's other resources. You can look for troubleshooting FAQs. You can look at GTN tutorials. And it's a good idea to try to solve the problem yourself if you can. But if you can't, submit a bug report, and you can get some help. And there's another way to look. This is the job information page. This shows it for every history, whether it's successful or failed, and it has every single detail. It shows you all the original inputs. So there's the first input that had a problem, and then all the other settings. And so when we rerun later, we don't have to reset everything. We can inherit all of these and just change the input. And so for this bug, we're going to look at the standard error. We're going to try to figure out what's going on. And because we can see here, there's like some code. It's like something is mismatching, and it looks like it's a chromosome identifier. So now we kind of know where to look for the problem. And there's our original input data set that generated. Everything else before that worked, just the latest data set failed. So we're going to take a look at it. And looks like a complicated file, so we're looking for small details here. Computers don't understand the difference between uppercase and lowercase. You have to make sure that these match up. So most of the data has a lowercase for the Chrome identifier. And here's the little problem. So this is where it's different. So we could edit this with a replace tool. There's a bunch of substitution commands, but because this is such a simple, small data set, we can edit it directly within Galaxy. So underneath the visualizations, the editor is present if you are working with a text file. A compressed file wouldn't work. So like you couldn't do this with the BAM data set, and you couldn't do this with any kind of compressed FASTQ data set, but you can do it with any kind of text or tabular data. And this means that you don't have to go through a bunch of steps of fixing and uploading and removing extra lines and adding new lines. This is just a very direct edit if you have a small change that you want to make. And so there is our problem. We're going to make a little simple fix. Large C to a small c. Now it all matches. And we're going to export the data set. And it's going to be saved back into our account as a brand new data set. So you still have the original, Nothing changed there. Now you have the new version. And this process is just like a job. So it's going to go through the different stages of gray, which is queued, and then yellow executing, and now it's done. And so now we're going to poke it, or we're going to give it a different name. This is optional for you. If the way that we're sharing it now by URL, that won't be inherited by another person. But if you shared it directly, then they would get the new name. Now we're just going to take a double check and look, and yep, that's changed. So we're going to hope this is going to work, and we're going to share it back with our collaborator. And so you can copy a dataset URL, and this saves a little time. We don't have to share the whole history back. We can just share this one particular dataset. Okay. So what do? We copied a history into our account. And it's got some details here, and I can see who shared it with me. So maybe a whole bunch of people are sharing data sets with me, or histories, and I can tell what's going on. And we went over some of the ways to solve a tool problem. So this happens a lot, and this is part of the exploring and experimenting phase of going through Galaxy. So the first thing that you want to probably try is to look at the bug report. You can look at the details for the job. And if you really need some help, you could post a question to the Galaxy Help Forum. And you want to make sure that you include enough information. You want to give the tool name. You want to give the tool version. You want to explain what you were doing. You want to know what server you were working on, if it's a public server. All those details make it easier for the community to help you out. So visualizations and graphing, there's many more choices. So we're using a tool in this example that was Circos, and that's a tool that generated some visualizations and some graphs, but you can also directly graph. So if you want to look at all of them, underneath the visualize menu with the create visualization, we'll list everything. And there's over 60 different types in here, and some of them are nested. But you can also go directly from a data set, and this will filter this list for only the visualization tools that are appropriate for the data type of your original data. So this is probably a good way to go in if you're not quite sure which visualization is going to work with your particular data. But you can always just search and see what's going on here, and the tool itself, all these different ones, will tell you what kind of input it expects. So then you could upload a data set of that format to use that tool. So we edited a data set directly, and we used the visualization icon. We went into the manual editor. We found the problem. Now, this isn't going to work for a very large file. So if you just search in the tool panel with keywords like replace, there's line command tools like sed that have been wrapped into Galaxy. If you understand regular expressions, you can do very complex replace. But sometimes when you just want to add maybe a header file, or you want to change your labels, your column labels just a little bit, or there's just a single point problem, maybe you have an extra new line in your file, you can go into the editor here. And so without having to like download the file, use your own custom editor and then re-upload it. So this should make it quicker for you if you run into this kind of use case. And now we're going to have another video, and we're going to rerun the original tool with the data set that we shared by URL with our collaborator, and their collaborator is going to import it by URL, and then they're going to rerun the tool. And without resetting all of the parameters, you saw before how many options were set. And so there's a rerun function that will inherit all the previous functions, and you can just add in the new input and then rerun it. And so here's a video about that. Here's the original error and the original input. And if you go to the upload tool, we can paste and fetch data by URL that our collaborator shared with us. And you can leave the URL there. You can rename it at this point, but we're going to rename it later. So it uploads. It's just like any other job. A little patience is needed sometimes, depending on the size of the data set and how busy the server is. Gray means queued. Yellow means it's executing. You don't want to interrupt something while it's going that. You want to wait till it's green. And your notifications on there. So then we're going to rename the data set to make it meaningful, because that URL wasn't very helpful to know what it was for later on. And be sure to save. And so the data set now appears in our history. It's ours. We can work with it. It's a new input. Here's the original failed job. And we can open it up. And then we're going to use the rerun icon. So this Circos is pretty complicated. And you may have other complicated tools with a lot of settings. And all we're going to change here is the original input to our new fixed input. So we're going to select a different data set. And we don't even have to look at the rest. All of that, we could open those up and check, but we're not going to do anything else because we think we found the problem. So the new job is executed, and it creates a new output in our history. There's a notification, lets us know it's done. And we hope it works. So green means that the job didn't technically fail, but it doesn't always mean that it's the right result. So you want to go in and check to make sure. And it looks like it's working. So, if you were doing this yourself, you could explore this more. And this is where the tutorial came from. Okay, so that all went pretty fast. So what did we do? A data set was a URL was captured with a copy link, and then it was pasted into the upload tool by somebody else because we shared the URL with them, and then it was added back to our data set, to our history, and we could work with it. And this is the rerun icon here, just so as a reminder. So this brings up everything that was run originally. You can do this even with data sets that aren't aired. You can do it with any data set. If you want to see whatever you want to load up the tool form again and see what was there, it's a really handy feature to use. And in this case, very simple. It happened to work. You may need to do more steps to resolve your own error problem. But this is, we wanted to show you how to share. It's a really powerful feature that some people get introduced to when they do a very early tutorial, but there's a lot of details underneath there that you can learn about and make your life a little bit easier. Galaxy is really great for collaboration. And it's really great for sharing. Any of these share links could be included in publications. They could be shared in webinars. And then we have the multi-history view. So we only had 2 in the example account, but you could have a whole bunch. You can scroll through, you can search, and you can do cool things like if I've created a new history, I can take a data set from another history and just slide it right over into the new history. So I don't have to go through a whole bunch of steps. I can just move these around. Maybe I want to move a few and rerun a workflow and have all the original data sets in there. So you can give that a try. So these are some Galaxy resources. And I believe that Annika is going to get started with these.
Yes. So we want just to show you or remind you, maybe you know of it, that we have a Galaxy training network. So under this URL, you can see there in this URL, you find more than 200 different tutorials. And there's a bunch of tutorials for scientists. So you see all these different sections there. So we have tutorials to introduce you to Galaxy. So 10 different tutorials, the assembly, climate data. So if you're working with computational chemistry and so on, imaging, RNA-seq data analysis. So if you need a tutorial how to analyze your data with Galaxy, you find here a great resource because we have more than 200 tutorials included. We have also many tutorials for Galaxy developers and administrators. So how to administrate a Galaxy server and how to develop tools in Galaxy. And also we have tools how to contribute. So as Galaxy is an open source tool, and it's a collaboration effort of the Global Galaxy project. So everybody is welcome to contribute new trainings. So if you have made a training on a different in a different topic, you can always contribute trainings here to our resource. And we have also many tutorials for instructors. So if you want to take a tutorial to run a workshop in your institution, for example, to show other people, hey, you have RNA-seq data, you can use just Galaxy and run this tutorial within your workshop. We have also some tutorials for instructors where we can show you how to teach. So our experience, how the best way to teach on this Galaxy, with Galaxy. Next slide. So we have chosen for our example this Circos visualization tool. So this tool is developed by Saskia, Helena, and Cristobal's tutorial for this tool. And this is how a GTN tutorial looks like. So you have always on top who have created this tutorial, and then you have in the overview questions, so what can be answered within this tutorial. You have objectives which are addressed here. You have always also what a suggestion what is required. So for this, to run this tutorial, for example, you should have done the introduction to Galaxy analysis. You have shown how long this tutorial will take. So if you run the full tutorial on Circos, you will need 2 hours to do this, and we have put all the supporting materials online. So we have introductory slides for each tutorial. We have data sets which are stored on Zenodo. So we have links there to download all the data sets used in this tutorial on Zenodo. You can download them. We have a prepared workflow for you already, which you can take to run your data, for example. And you can also watch on which Galaxy instances these tools are available, for example. And yeah, we really want to motivate you to check this page to see how the GTN tutorials can help you, because we have really detailed step-by-step instructions for self-studying or to take for own training courses. And yeah, you are provided with workflows and these prepared data sets. Next slide. So in the European Galaxy server, so if you are working with the European Galaxy server, we have also all the data which you need to run a GTN tutorial in our shared data section. So if you go in this masthead section in the top navigation panel, and if you click in this shared data option, you find there the data libraries, and these data libraries contain many data, but among them you find also the GTN material, which you see in the second picture. Next slide. And when you click on GTN material, you have to select the tutorial you want to run or which you need. So we have used there we have to search for the Circos tutorial there. And if you choose your tutorial, you will find all the data sets you need to run this tutorial, and you can click them and export these data sets you need to your history. Next slide. This is Jen. So Jen will tell you something about available public Galaxy servers.
Yeah, so we were using, let's go back. We were using the European Galaxy server, which is part of a suite of Use Galaxy. We call them Use Galaxy. We've got star servers. There will be more in the future. And these are the largest public Galaxy servers, but there's many other ways to use Galaxy. A public server is not always appropriate. For example, if you're working with protected data, which would maybe human clinical data, you could put a Galaxy server together yourself and put it behind a firewall. You maybe don't want it on the internet. Maybe you want to set up your own Galaxy server where you can set larger quota, and for your own labs, they can do their own work and they're not competing with others on the public servers. This would probably be important if you have very large data, and I'll show you some of the reasons about that just in a few minutes. But so these are these Galaxy servers. You can have, there's the known public servers. There's academic clouds, there are commercial clouds, and containers and VMs. And all of these details, if you have questions about them after reviewing, you can ask a question at Galaxy Help if you're not clear about how to work with those. Maybe you get started with the one and you need some help. We can hook you up with the right people. So this is the choices matrix. So if you scroll down on that same page, this kind of gives you an idea about what to pick, because there's so many choices. It kind of tells you kind of what's going on. So if you've got a lot of data and you've got time constraints, you probably want to choose one of these other options. But you can review and decide yourself. There is one special option, which is the training infrastructure as a service. The Galaxy EU server hosts this right now. We're going to expand that to the US server, use galaxy.org. And this is free. Everything is completely set up for you. There's a dashboard where you can see where your students are maybe stuck. And all of the GTN tutorials are guaranteed to work. Now, if you decide to use this, you could also run your own tutorial. It doesn't have to be a GTN tutorial. What this is a particular faster queue. So if you're running it through a workshop, you want all of those jobs. All those jobs are probably small. You want them to run very quickly, and you want to see what your students are doing. And now that everyone is doing more learning online, this could be very useful because you can't see the faces and you can't kind of tell where everyone's going, but you can see how their work is going and how they're progressing. And so we wanted to make people more aware of this as a resource. You don't have to try to set up on a public server and just hope that it goes well. We can help you. So other ways we can help you is the Galaxy Help Forum. So these are the use galaxy.star servers up here. And you can see that the Belgium server has been added. Still a little bit new, but you can give it a try. And if it's administrative questions, really any question you can ask Karen will help you triage to either help you to find documentations or resources, and we can bring in more experts if you're in a particular domain that needs a little more specialized help. For example, maybe a cloud version of Galaxy. And there's many ways to get involved with Galaxy. So it's a community effort. The core team is actually pretty small given the size and scale of the project. Our community is very large. We're one of the largest open source projects according to GitHub, and we think so too. So if you want to learn more about us, you can go to our community hub and review lots of information. So there's developer sessions, we have yearly conferences, the training network. If you want to help develop tutorials and materials, there's a tutorial that tells you and explains to you how to create a tutorial. So there's a lot of details. If you're in a particular location, and there's regional communities that you could reach out to and meet others that are working on the same kind of projects you are, where you're located. There's Conda and Via Conda. So Galaxy's been really heavily involved in developing those resources. So as I said, Galaxy is a global community open source project. So there are hundreds and hundreds of people that contribute. It's not just the core team. There's no way that we could do all of this on our own. So if you want to get involved, we welcome you.